guys. We got John the Machine Davis. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good today. Appreciate you having me on.
First power slap middleweight champion, three-time middleweight champ. How's life treating you?
Like most other people, just still out here grinding, making it through the day to day, waiting for the next time I get to go, do my thing and compete.
Tell us about your upbringing and everything that led you to joining power slap.
Uh, a lot of it was I just grew up as a wild kid out in the middle of nowhere. My life's always been kind of different and funny. I grew up on an ostrich farm, so being a part of real weird stuff, kind of had a knack for it. And then, long story short, looking to get into amateur MMA, stumbled into power slap. And the next thing you know, I'm, going from Vegas to Abu Dhabi to compete in the world's biggest competitions.
You said you grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
How's that lifestyle like?
Definitely. You learn how to work hard, and if you don't, then you probably don't have very much success on that farm, no matter what it is.
How did your experience in MMA influence how you approach slap fighting?
I would say more so wrestling because I never really got to do anything other than to look into the amateur MMA. I'm actually, in the process of maybe getting something linked up now. But I would say, high school wrestling and then the small time I spent on Paris Island at boot camp. That was definitely two things that mentality wise, like I would push myself to breaking points most people probably wouldn't. So that way, when I do get up there to compete, I have that mindset to be able to deal with, the craziness that is power slap.
You mentioned boot camp. What kind of boot camp was that?
It would have been Marine Corps boot camp on Paris Island.
So you're in the Marine Corps.
I technically was, yes.
Thank you for your service. Who's your dreams power slap opponent?
Man, there's so many of these streamers and content creator folks that are, they think it's fun in games and everything, which it kind of is, but just whoever has the biggest following, because I know that would, they would come in making a lot of noise, thinking that this is going to be a light day of work in the office, and then have a real rude awakening when they get knocked out up there. So any of these, quote unquote famous social media or content creators that think this is just an easy little fun game, that's who I would like to challenge and see up there.
Is there anyone in specific that you've seen downplay power slap?
Um, Not so much that I've seen anyone in particular downplay it. I think that because of them being there, and I'm not like, I don't have any beef with anyone that I, can specifically call out either, but more so the creators and, people videoing and having reactions. I would like to see some of those people actually step up because it's like you get to enjoy it from the crowd, but like, you know, I'm sure a lot of people, oh, I could do that under their breath or behind the cameras. Well, go up there and try, because I know a lot of people say that, but the likelihood of it actually happening is 0 to none, I'd say.
Understood. And on that note, what's something behind the scenes that fans will be surprised to learn about power slap?
It is so much more technical and regulated and actually systematic as a whole for a company than a lot of people. They think this is just bums coming off the street, off the couch with no training, going up there and slapping each other. There's a lot of training. There's a lot of the rule set that you have to follow that is very, very important and key, because if you don't follow the rule set, you're just going to end up losing because of penalties, and your career will be short lived, I would say.
Understood, understood. So, in the training process, how do you build your chin physically and mentally?
Mentally, you just gotta have huge, huge balls. The metaphorical kind, not the physical kind, because you're going up there, and before you even sign the contract, you already know there's like a 99% chance that you're gonna get hit. You can be as confident as you want that you'll win the coin toss and knock your opponent out, but then the high likelihood that you don't do that, you're gonna end up taking one.
Understood. And you have any pre-fight rituals or mental warm-ups before a match?
Um, I would say that day I just kind of chill out, eat whatever I would like for the most part. Try not to overeat so I'm not sick. But, a good long shower. That's definitely before I'm getting ready to get on the bus. It all kind of sinks in that it's go time. I get that nice long shower. My bag's packed and everything that I know I'm gonna need because it's gonna be a long night after that, especially when you are towards the end of the card. You don't get out of there till way later on.
And the process of flying you out and staying in Vegas and all that, does Power Slap take care of all that?
Absolutely, yeah. All that stuff's taken care of. They've taken care of, the flights to and from Vegas, the flight to Abu Dhabi, medical stuff in between. All of that stuff is taken care of on them.
Got it. And as far as training goes, like in Vegas, are you guys allowed access to the Performance Institute or no?
I know that people have been able to when we're down there. I think more so it might be by request, but you still are able to ask and see what you can and can't do and where you can get. But I know, especially for the guys making weight, they do go over there and use the facilities to cut weight, the sauna, and all that stuff.
Did you ever expect you were going to be in this position in life? What did you think you were going to be when you were younger?
Man, other than in jail, I don't know, because I was a wild child to say the least. So ending up where I'm at now and having these great opportunities that I stumbled upon in all seriousness to where I've been able to go in the world and the connections I've been able to make, it's unfathomable.
Are there any notable celebrities that you're excited to meet?
Um, I'd say Mark Wahlberg was definitely cool because we were all just kind of hanging out, chilling. Trying to think because I always end up forgetting who I've ended up talking to. I've shook Tom Aspinall's hand. Pretty sure Ilya Taporia's hand. The list goes on and on. Especially UFC champs like Volkanovski, Marab. Had the chance to meet them. Paul Felder. Bisbing. I've had multiple times getting to talk to Bisbing since he calls for us, along with all the other announcers that we have. Those folks are great. They all have big followings and their own things going on outside of Power Slap as well. So, it's like a never-ending list. I could probably sit here and go on and on because I forget sometimes, like, hey, I'm mid-conversation when someone's talking about one of these people. I'm like, oh yeah, when I was talking to them about da-da-da-da-da, most people around here are like, what do you mean when you were talking to them? That's crazy.
I can imagine. Are you still pursuing a career in MMA?
Yeah. There's something, hopefully I can get something together here in the near future. It kind of got put on the back burner because Power Slap became such a big part of my life at that point in time when I was training. So it definitely became the main focus for a while. And at the moment, if I don't have anything to be getting ready for Power Slap, I want to try and stay busy doing something else.
Understood. As the first Power Slap middleweight champ, the first time you won the championship, you defended it 2 times, and makes you a 3-time middleweight champ. You've already cemented your name in the history of Power Slap. When it's all said and done, what do you want to be remembered for, and what's your legacy gonna say in this company?
And it's not that I'm ready to walk away or anything like that, but just being able to sit and look back at the career that I've had, being there from the very beginning, when it was literally Dana, Hunter, Frank, the people who were the very top brass of Power Slap. It was them and then the TV crew in there when there was, no idea of a crowd, maybe a special spectator, and the rule sets being changed because we're all learning at the same time and being a part of this whole big thing, the growth of it, being part of that all the way up to getting the opportunity to be the first middleweight champ.
I was going through your resume, I noticed on Tapology it showed that you were 6-1, but on Power Slap it showed you 6-2. Can you let us know which one is the correct one?
Uh, it's technically 6-2, but the match that and I'd have to call and ask because I noticed the same thing myself the other day. The match that's not on there that is a loss is a heavyweight match that they've never aired. So again, if we go all the way back to the very beginning when this is pretty much all, we're the guinea pigs and this is a test pilot. Dorian Perez, who has competed for the heavyweight title, him and I competed at heavyweight at the very beginning. So my first win was at heavyweight. The next day I got to go against Dorian Perez, and due to the craziness of that match in the aspect of the rule set not being in place yet, it hasn't been aired. It's there's been clips of it put out, and that's about it. But that would be the match that I'm assuming that since they haven't been able to put it out, that they're taking off one of my losses. But I still think that was probably one of the greatest matches ever, and I wish they'd air it because that shit was nuts.
It kind of reminds me of Jared Cannonier. You've seen Jared Cannonier fighting like 3 different weight classes.
Yes. I was hoping to be able to compete at light heavyweight also, but unfortunately that fight fell through. So that would have been, another feather in my cap that I would have liked to have had happen, to be able to go heavyweight down to middleweight and then at light heavyweight. So that way I've kind of covered half of the freaking Power Slap roster.
Oh, that's a big task, especially when you got, people bigger than you in a one-shot sport.
Yeah.
Man. So do you have any fight news?
Unfortunately, no, man. I wish I could say, at least for Power Slap, there's nothing coming down the pipeline that I know of. I may or may not be finally dabbling in some MMA. I have to get all that stuff verified first. But if people are interested in my career and how things are going, they can go look, because as soon as I get confirmation on anything, whether it's Power Slap or anything else, I will be posting it on Instagram, Facebook, trying to do TikTok these days since it's such a big thing, and letting everyone know when I have something coming down the pipeline.
Do you have anyone you want to call out?
Man, I want the title shot back. I lost the belt, and then there's been some controversial title fights from that point on with another set of guys. So Brandon Bordeaux, he's the guy who currently holds the belt. Isaiah Quinones is the guy who took the belt from me. They have their trilogy coming up. Whoever wins that match, I don't care what anyone has to say. I've done enough in this sport to whoever wins that match for me to be able to go against to attempt to get my belt back. I was on a 5-fight win streak going into when I did lose, and that one loss going into the third round, and there being some controversy in that fight, I feel like I'm still, I'm ranked number 2, should still be number 1, and I want my championship shot.
Yeah, you're actually very entertaining to watch. You get into a lot of wars. You've had the war, after the first one where you beat Azael in the first round. You went through a full war with him. You went through a
Yes,
war with Wesley Drain.
that one
Isaiah
was
Quinones,
nuts.
the one you lost, was a war too. Um, well, for a lot of people are new to Power Slap, so we're trying to get down to the technical details of Power Slap. And one question I have for you is, whenever you're about to eat the slap, when you're about to take it, and it's on its way to you, what are you doing mentally to make sure you don't get knocked out?
Um, by that point, and this is what I've usually said this to people when they ask in the past. Once my walkout song hits, I'm the person you get to talk to right here, right now. Cool, calm, and collective no longer exists. That person is gone. There's a whole other alter ego psychopath inside me that I have to be mentally prepared as I'm walking up those steps to. And even when I did lose, up to the very second of him hitting me, and in my mind, I had not a single doubt that I was going to win. So that mentality, walking up there, already set in my mind of knowing that whether it's in the first round or by the end of the fight, technically, I'm going to win these fights because I have put in enough work. I have studied the rule set and been part of making it. And I am one of the, technically cleanest strikers in Power Slap to have done all these things that are on my resume.
Would you consider that competitive version of you sort of an alter ego?
Recently I've had to kind of look at it that way, and it definitely took over because of how fast things were moving in the beginning of Power Slap. I was on Power Slap 1, on Power Slap 2, like you said, war with Wesley Drain, injured my shoulder, had to come back from that, coaching Power Slap 3. So I was so involved in it that being the champion and, holding myself to this standard in my mind that made sense became such an obsession, and it really took away from regular life. So I've had to learn to separate, what, alter ego, ego, whatever you want to call it. I've tried to separate the two, so that way from now on, until I need that when I'm up there, I don't have that running the show, because it can definitely cause a problem.
Where does that fire come from?
Man, I've always had it. I've always had that. It was, again, a wild child, to say the least. I don't know if I was born with a chip on my shoulder or what, but going out there and not just proving to my opponent that I am tougher than him and that I can beat him in this game, whether it's by strength or by technicality, going out and performing for Power Slap and proving to Dana that there was an absolute 100% good reason why I ended up in the position I was in and did the things that I've done, on top of then Power Slap itself being able to use not just what I've done, but everybody else who's put in the work like I have to blow up in the short amount of time that it has.
And touching on what you mentioned earlier, you said you're in the Marines. Why did you join the Marines?
Um, you know, my dad was in the Marine Corps, so it was a pretty simple transition. I grew up with very similar standards, I guess you would say, or attributes, however you would want to word it, that were very similar to being part of the Marine Corps on Paris Island. Another reason was I was trying to run away from Ohio and get out of here, but unfortunately my career was cut short and I ended up back here in Ohio anyway. But if that doesn't happen, then I don't end up in the positions I'm in today. The one that I'm most thankful for is finding my wife and having the beautiful family that I have now.
That sounds amazing. Thank you for your time. I just want to ask you one last question. Um, if if John Davis is not in Power Slap, if John Davis is not a fighter, and besides Marines, what would you be doing right now?
Um, I probably still would have just been welding away. I would have had that job until I retired. I've had to kind of switch things up in that aspect and at least have things figured out now. But that's probably where I would be and what I would be doing, just welding my heart out.
So your father was a welder before you?
No, that would have been I kind of stumbled into learning how to be a welder as well, but that's what I stumbled into and was doing right before I came into Power Slap.
Got it. Well, John, it was nice to meet you, man. Is there anything you want to leave the fans with before we leave?
Go follow me on my socials, John the Machine Davis, on pretty much everything. I'm, verified and all that fun jazz on a couple of them, so you'll know it's me. I appreciate a follow. Try and follow people back. If people have questions and they want to learn, like I'll get to my messages as soon as I can. But helping people understand the sport and all of the, I like to say, we're not. People think we're playing checkers, but we're really playing chess, and you just have to understand how. So answering people's questions and getting to communicate with everyone, is great. So I appreciate you having me on and giving me the chance to connect with more folks out there.
Well, we appreciate you, and we're excited to learn more about Power Slap as we go. I'm excited to watch the company grow, and hopefully we'll touch base again soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it.
Thank you.